Hi guys, what's up? How are you? Today, I would like to bring up a topic of aging and responsibility and dealing with growing because as some of you may know, I turned 29 this year, which means that next year I will be turning 30 and I had to deal with it. A lot of you might say, Anna, come on, it's too young, you're not old yet, you don't have to be worried about it. But anyway, it's a round number. It's a transition anyway. I know there is like a quarter life crisis and a half life crisis, and this kind of doesn't fit into any of it. But I think it can apply to various ages because I know people of 25 who are going through this. Most of my friends are older than 30 and they had to go through this already. And I just wanted to share some of my observations and tips that were helpful for me dealing with this. And yeah, I hope that it helps some of you to go smoother through this transition if you're struggling with it. So I really like a concept in astrology, which is the return of Saturn, which happens around your 30th birthday. So like around 28, 29 and a half years. It's a little bit different for everyone. And it's supposed to be the time when you stop relying on other people and you take more responsibility for your own life. And in astrology, it is believed, I know that it's like really weird to bring astrology into this, but listen to me. This period of time will hit you as hard as you have been preparing for this in terms of responsibility. So if you are a person that is straight with their life and you have your stuff together and you're not afraid of taking responsibility and you are an adult, like emotionally, it's gonna be fine. You're just gonna become aware that you're now an adult, that no one is going to come and stop you from doing some crazy stuff. You will just go smoothly. And if you are relying even subconsciously on someone or something like a parental figure, or you just expect others to take care of you and stuff like that, it might be more hurtful for you because maybe some of these things will be taken away from you, or you will have to go through some hardships in order to grow up and take the responsibility that you need to take for your life, which I believe for me happened last year. Astrology aside, I think that it's just a really nice concept to enter this topic because we do need to take responsibility for ourselves, and for each age there is an appropriate amount of responsibility. Like when you're a kid, you're not responsible for many things. They're your parents or your caretakers that take care of you and that are responsible for your well-being. And then as you grow older, you take more and more and more responsibility. And a lot of the people don't deal very well with their responsibility because it means that you cannot just do whatever, and there are consequences to your actions. And that means that you have to assume the fact that if you do something, there will be consequences. And I think that an erroneous way of seeing this is to see responsibility as kind of a punishment. And I know that I had it because my parents, without knowing, used a language where like consequences were always presented as something negative. I don't know about you, but like in my case, they would tell me, oh, this, what you just did will lead to consequences. And consequences was like punishment. So for me, even the word consequence, which is neutral, was something negative. So I suggest that if you are struggling with taking responsibility, you might benefit from seeing it from the viewpoint of opportunity instead of punishment. Because yes, if you are an adult, if you're older than like 25, 30, you maybe are not going to just do irresponsible things without any consequence, and there will always be someone to save you. It just slides because you're young. And I think that in general, responsibility gives more freedom than anything else. Because yes, of course, you are responsible for your actions. So if you do something that is maybe less than optimal, you will have to face the consequences of your deeds. But that also means that no one is there to limit you. So the limits are just the consequences of your actions that you as an adult assume. And if you understand how the world works, you can see that, okay, I do this, I do A, there is a consequence B. If I don't want to deal with the consequence B, I should not do A, And if I want a consequence C, then I should probably do D, because this is the consequence of my actions that I'm gonna have to face after I do the action D. I don't know if that made any sense, but I just wanted to say that responsibility is not as scary as it might seem. It's actually pretty cool, and it's also liberating. I don't know if you know the feeling, but when you have to do something and you have been putting it off, and it's like a 15-minute thing that you have been postponing for 2 weeks, and then you do it and you feel a sense of relief. I feel like with many things, like our responsibilities are similar, because we think that it's such a burden, and then in the end it's not even that bad as it seemed before. And another thing that I wanted to mention in terms of aging is probably for some people it's easier than for the others, because if your identity is very tied to your appearance, for example, or to, for example, being a prodigy child, or something that is very much related to your youth, or maybe if you like do sports and you know that your career really depends on your age, maybe it can be more difficult. But there it is very important to just understand what type of identity you have created in your head that makes you suffer when you think of aging, and aging for you means the loss of this identity. I will give you an example. In my case, I had an issue because I always was the youngest everywhere. And the first time, a couple of years ago, that in my working group there was a person who was younger than me, it was such a weird thing, because I was always the youngest everywhere. And I had this like prodigy child identity that everyone was like, oh, you're so young and you have already done so much. Like, wow, this is so impressive. And of course, like each year it is less impressive, because I mean, you continue to do things, but you're just not like when you're 25 and you have done so much. It's more impressive than when you're 30 and you have done so much, because also there is like more people to compare yourself to. And there are people who are very tied to their appearance, and of course, like with age, your body starts changing and you start looking different, and that can also be traumatic for some people. Or as I said, like if you do sports and you hardly rely on your body, and you know that you only have like this much time, and if you're too tied to your profession, it might even cause crisis of identity, and it can be very painful. So the first step to overcome this is to understand like what exactly aging means for you, if you suspect that it's one of these things. And here I can suggest an exercise that I call 5 whys. So for example, you say to yourself, I am afraid of aging, and then you ask yourself why, and then you answer to yourself. But you have to be very honest, and you have to think it like not with your head, but just write down the first thing that comes to your mind. So you ask yourself, why am I afraid of aging? And then you reply to yourself, for example, because that means that I will not be able, for example, to get married anymore. And then you ask yourself why, and then you answer, because people after 30 don't get married. And then you ask yourself why. And so you ask yourself all these questions until you get to the real answer. So then for you, maybe the first and the last question and answer would be, I'm afraid of getting old, or I'm afraid of aging. And then after 5 whys, your answer is because old people are disgusting. And it's really interesting. And then you can start working with what you have found, because if you have created an identity or a false belief, you can, well, first of all, challenge it. And in order to deal with it, you can find evidence to the contrary. So for example, if you are afraid that you will not get married after you're 30, you can look for evidence of people who have gotten married after they're 30. Or if it's about your career, you can find evidence of people who, I don't know, got their PhD when they were 60. So if it is about your identity as a prodigy child or something like that, then maybe you need to look even deeper and find the core of yourself that is eternally valuable, and that has nothing to do with your achievements, with your looks, with your intelligence, with anything. And this is just like a basic idea of everything, that you are deserving of love and of life, and you're here for a reason, and you're valuable just for existing. You don't need to be constantly proving anything to anyone. I guess that was more or less it, what I wanted to share today. I hope that it has helped. Tell me like, how old are you? Did you have anything like that in your life? Like, did you have to deal with aging if you're a girl or a guy? Like, I think for girls it's even more difficult just because of how our society is. And I never say this because it feels weird, but I'm so excited. We are really, really close to 2,000 subscribers, which I'm just looking at this number and I'm like, it would be so cool. So if you're not subscribed, maybe you want to consider that. And also, I'm just reminding you that I offer coaching now. I have a website which I will link down below, and you can book a free introductory session with me if you're interested. Or if you know someone that may be interested, you can also refer them to me. Thank you very much for watching. I love you so much. Be kind to yourself and to other people, and see you in the next video.